So the Trump and Canada trade wars have exploded this week. In January, I done the 2026 yearly predictions, and Canada came out as one of the countries that would be in the news in a big way in 2026. 6 months ago, I done a reading on Greenland, and I asked about Canada specifically because they came up in the 2026 predictions. What they told me then was there would be strained relations between US and Canada that would cause negative impacts on the Canadian economy. It could have possible ties to the proximity of Canada between the US and Greenland. But what came out then was trade wars. Trade wars was a card that came out when I did that reading 6 months ago. Strained relations with the US and the negative impact that it would have on the Canadian economy. So I'm going to deep dive that a little bit more today. I think I may try to retrieve that, if I can, retrieve that footage and insert it here into this video. If I cannot, I will link it on the end of this video. So today is just a deep dive just to find out what's going on here. When I heard the news, my first thought was, what does the US, Trump, I shouldn't say the US, so I do want to look into why this is happening. My first thought was, do they want Canada as another state? And then I read a comment after that said that Trump actually said Canada wants the perks of being, and this is paraphrasing, but Canada wants the perks of being a state without being a state. So that's a question right there. Is the purpose of this to try and wear them down, where the only way they'll have no tariffs if they become a state? Or is it because they're not budging on assisting Trump with rare earth minerals in Greenland? Now, the other interesting thing that came out in that reading was when I was looking into Greenland, not the Canadian portion, but the Greenland, Trump would have to reverse course temporarily out of his intrigue in rare earth minerals in Greenland because he would have other priorities that he would need to take care of at that time. This was 6 months ago that I did this reading, and it turns out that it was Iran that was the priority that he had to go and deal with. But now, is he moving and turning his sights back onto rare earth minerals in the Arctic? And does he need the support of Canada? And maybe he's trying to make Canada more pliable. So that's two questions that I have, plus I'll ask the cards what they think the reason is that there's a trade war right now between Trump and Canada. So let's just get into today's reading. So I'm mostly using the Governance Oracle for today's reading. It's perfect for reading on economy, governments, trade wars, perfect deck. But I may also bring in a couple of cards from the Forecaster Oracle as well. Let's see what the cards want to reveal today. First thing I want to say is trade war cards up, which means the cards are on it. The cards know what, and I can see the Canadian flag and the US flag right there. How about that? I didn't even know I put them at the forefront. In the trade war, who benefits or who is impacted by this trade war? What is the purpose here? Now, in that reading, I said Canada will negatively be impacted. And I used the word impact. I think I actually had this card and I said I'm seeing it as it will be impacted economically, and the cards have come out that way again. So yes, it is going to affect goods and services. Now there's a leadership battle going on between the US and Canada. Does this mean that, and I don't know how Trump feels about Carney, but I'm wondering if there's unresolvable differences between them. He's trying to rule from the background, but there's unresolvable difference. It's yielding disappointing results in being able to control Canada. Trying to get, I don't know if it's big leader here. And look, I've got to tell you too, there's I did leadership battles. So there's a budding here of heads, leader against leader. Not seeing eye to eye. They've got unresolvable differences. The whole system of this tariffs is a corrupt system in a way to control people or make somebody fall from grace. Maybe even make Canada itself fall from grace. Maybe that's the reason of one of the reasons here. I'm not seeing the oil card, I'm not seeing the rare earth cards, I'll ask that separately. But maybe the point is to have the leader of Canada fall from grace because they're not able to rule from the background. The US is not able to rule from the background. As much as they're trying to get Canada to stand by their side as an ally or to follow along and play along, there seems to be unresolvable differences here, with Canada going along with the US's plan. The other cards that have come out is stepping down, which is quite similar to fall from grace, is the hope and intention to make the Canadian leader step down. So US steps in and provides intervention. And this card here has the US flag in the background. So US stepping in to Canadian matters. I mean, we all know that the tariffs are used as a way to fight battles, punish people when they're not offering their assistance or their allegiance. So disappointed in Canadians' support. There's a battle of wills here in direction that they want to go. So make Canada fall from grace, so then US steps in to provide intervention and is able to rule in the shadows. Now the tariff war is just the beginning. Yes, it's going to be felt by Canadians because of the economic challenges. Now the intention may be to have the current leader step down. So let's see if it's anything to do with, and I'm changing my questions because of the spread that's come out. Is it because they want to be able to have Canada do as they're told, fall into line, be a good ally? Or is it because they're needing Canada's assistance when they start looking into Greenland and rare earth minerals in that direction? So no spread this time, just a question and answer. First question, is it because the US wants Carney to step down? Succession plan. Wanting a succession plan, meaning to bring somebody else in. Now, are they going to get the collective to stand against him, or did the collective stand for him? But there's collective action here. I think the people are far too smart, far too awake and aware to not see what's going on here. Does it have anything to do with Canada being a good ally to the US? Bottomless money pit. This is my card for mining and rare earth minerals. This is what the card is about. So it's not about them being a good ally. It's about, well, it is if it comes to Trump wanting to insert himself into the Arctic or into Greenland, he'll need the support of Canada. This is the rare earth minerals or the mining card. I know it says bottomless money pit, but I've learnt that this is what this card means when it comes out in the readings, especially about these topics. Sitting on the bottom of the deck is no. It's dodging the question, so it's a little bit different to the way that I asked it. Is it to do with Trump wanting the Canada to be a good ally? Well, no, not really, but they do need them when it comes to their plans for rare earth minerals. They need the support or Canada on their side. So I think the way that I asked the question was misleading. I was also thinking in my mind, I should be asking about the rare earth minerals. I should just get to that question. So I was kind of thinking that as well. So I think this is why these cards have come up, to say that I was dodging the question I needed to ask, misleading in a way that I was kind of asking two questions as I was shuffling. In my mind, I was asking the second one. So no, it's not that they just want them to be good allies. They want them to do something to do with the bottomless money pit, the rare earth minerals when it comes to Greenland. Do they need them to become a state of the US? Does Trump need Canada to become a state of the US? Disappointing. And it's funny because as I'm saying that, I'm like, I can hear Canadians are not very accepting of that. That's probably going to cause collective action. But that would be a disappointing result to the Canadian people. It would make it feel to them like they're being dictated to, like a communist country. So I feel collectively the people of Canada would not like that. That would be a disappointing result for them. Let's see if there's anything else that needs to come out here. They would be lacking. They'd lack control, and whoever's in command, it wouldn't be a PM anymore. It would be the president. So they would no longer have control. Canadians, I mean, it would become more of they'd be dictated to how they're supposed to be, and that from the perspective of the Canadian people. They would be disappointed with that result. So that in itself would cause that collective energy kind of card. Now, the question that I asked that it didn't answer, it just gave me the perspective of the people, is does Trump want Canada as a state? Does Trump want Canada as a US state? He wants to influence them. I don't think he wants them as a state. He wants to shake things up about earthquake. So it's not earthquake, it's shaking up boundaries, borders. But I think he just mostly wants them to be able to influence them more so than have them as a state. Bottom of the deck is failed negotiation. What can you tell me about the tariff wars? Okay, so they're not very well thought out. They're not ready. They're not prepared for where this tariff war could go. So there will be a shift in alliances. There's going to be some shifting going around. It's not going to be the way it is now. There's be some shifting, but they're also not prepared for this battle either. I don't think they're going to be prepared for how it's going to affect the economy in Canada. So they're going to have to do some shifting when it comes to alliances. Interesting. Does that mean they shift away from US more towards NATO, like Greenland? I wonder. Will this cause Canada to shift away from the US? This is a card again that talks about Greenland and rare earth minerals. National defense. Fraudulent conduct involving national defense in order for US to get their way when it comes to rare earth minerals, whether or not Canada is involved. They are in open negotiations, moving chessboard pieces around the board to secure all of for Trump to secure control of all the minerals, or the majority of the minerals around the world. So this is the chessboard. This is what I call the chessboard. It's putting pieces in place, Trump, to secure access to minerals in lots of different countries. Now, there could be a level of fraudulent conduct when it comes to how the military is used here in this pursuit. So I haven't asked, is it to do with Greenland, the Arctic Circle, and Canada's proximity to Greenland? Okay, this one kind of doesn't really answer the question. I think the other cards have, but this one is saying they're trying to make Canadian economy very volatile. So they have to overhaul their policies in hopes that the Canadians PM will step down. Hoping for that. Who? I think Trump is hoping for that. I don't know what the relationship is like between Trump and Carney. I have no idea. But the cards keep saying he wants him to step down. unreconcilable differences between them. Then they're not agreeing. And the economy is going to get very shaky in Canada. It's going to be very volatile. They're going to have to rewrite or overhaul policies to try and get some kind of stability. Okay, one more pull for Canada. Let's do the forecaster and a final pull for Canada, please. Canada has been in a state of emergency when it comes to wildfires. There is tactical maneuvers being played right now, the tariff wars, when it comes to the US and Canada, or Trump and Canada. They are deliberately being targeted because of new ideas that are unfolding. And when I did that reading 6 months ago, I said that Trump will reverse course out of Greenland because he has something else that he needs to do that's a higher priority, and that was Iran. But now we're coming back into a new plan unfolding, a new strategic tactical maneuver unfolding, where Canada becomes in the firing line because of their proximity. Animal signals, I'm not sure what the animal signals card means. I might pull another card for that one as far as what's going on. I don't know if it's connected to the wildfires and the state of emergency. Maybe pay attention to animals behaving strangely in Canada. Troubled relations between Canada and the US. Turbulence. Perhaps we're looking at a optimistic approach or an improved situation, which is probably what we want to hear. So we want to see an improved approach, improvement in the situation, monitoring the situation. There is going to be some turbulence. There's miscommunication. There's troubled relations between the US, but there will be an improved situation coming. And then over on this side, state of emergency, we're looking at the wildfires. Just while we're on Canada. No, they're not really pulling too much. Has been a little bit of displacement. Perhaps I'm not sure. Did homes get taken out in that? Scrutiny over who helped and who didn't help. And education over the situation and improvements for the future. But mostly this reading today was about the trade wars. So let me know if that made sense to you. I'm not 100% certain what's going on in Canada, but I do feel for all my Canadian friends there. I do feel for what you're going through there. I know things are going to get a bit tough for you guys, especially in the economy. So my heart is sent out to everybody in Canada. Let's read Canada, because Canada came up in the 2026 predictions that they were going to be significant, or they was going to face changes. There was something going on with Canada. Now, I don't know what that could possibly be, and I just want to know if it's somehow connected to the Arctic or the Greenland situation. Is that okay? Straight away, let me know, cards. Is that what you meant when you pulled out 2026, that Canada was going to be big? Concerns or big situations around Canada for 2026? A supporting role or assisting role in the situation with Greenland. Is that correct? So I guess US I don't know why it would have a negative impact on Canada, but there's a mourning or a loss here that is connected to Canada that has a negative impact. Could be related to a leadership battle with Canadian leaders, or leadership battle between Canada and US. Over here, a bit of a trade war battle going on. Canada, and trade war to me sounds like US. So this is puts Canada in an unusual predicament, I think, when they're seeking the support of Canada. It puts them in a sensitive position. So then we've got trade war on the table, but they are affected negatively here. To do with leadership battle. What role is Canada meant to play in this unfolding Arctic narrative. Very much to do with a power shift. So the main cards here are it may cause strained relations. Now it could be connected because it's like the border. Canada's so close to the Arctic or the situation here. They're very close to the situation. Now I don't know if this is ice, if this is the border deportation card, it is usually connected to that ice, but because we're asking about Canada, I feel like the strained relations will come because of Canada's proximity to Greenland and what happens with a power shift and where does Canadian support go. It puts them in a really sensitive position. Okay, we'll have a beneficial impact here, which is a good card to have. Now, I actually just think it's the word impact is what's relevant here. It impacts Canada because of their proximity to the border, to their location to Greenland. I think that's what that card is indicating. Over here, we've got trusted advisor, shadow operation. So this is operations that are taking place between the Cold Response 26 exercises. This could be NATO's or Norway's intervention here. Operations it's shadow operations, but it's operations that's taking place concerning Greenland and Canada wondering who to trust, because there's a lot of censorship here. There's a bit of energy of not being truthful about true intentions. So I feel it just really compromises Canada in some way, the values. It causes a strained relations. This power shift or this power struggle between Greenland and US puts Canada in a really a predicament, a strained relation because of the proximity to Greenland. Could also cause some kind of economic challenges with economic uncertainty around Canada or Canadians.